Hey everybody, welcome back. We are here today with another episode of Recommended Reading. So I'm going to start off with the books that I mentioned in the last one that I was going to be reading for the month of December. So the first one is Rooms by Lauren Oliver. I mentioned that I was going to be starting that one, and you guys, I got about 1/3 of the way through the book, and nothing was happening, and I was very frustrated. So I actually gave up on it, which I don't usually do, but that book was so freaking boring. If you have read it, did it pick up? Was it worth reading? Because I thought that I was just going to pass out while I was listening to it because nothing was going on, so that was a dud. The next one is Our House, and this one was actually really good. So it is there's stuff floating in the air. It is a husband and wife, and their two small children, and the wife comes home one day, and there's somebody else moving into their home. All of her stuff is gone. Her husband and children are gone, and she doesn't know what's going on. And so it's kind of her journey to figure out what has happened. It's a little bit like suspense, thriller, crime, and like family dynamics kind of thing. And I'm going to try not to give too many spoilers for these. It's hard for me to tell like what is a spoiler and what is not. So let me just say that her husband had a lot of secrets that he was keeping, and those secrets kind of snowballed into bigger and bigger issues to where you find this out early on, so I feel like I can tell you, but he sold the house out from under her in a scam. He was working with people who were blackmailing him. And so he sold the house to get the money to pay them off, and chaos ensues. And she finds her kids that he left them with his mom. So, they weren't really like missing, but he is missing. And so the story is told partly from his perspective, partly from her perspective, and then partly from the perspective of one of the bad guys. So it was enthralling. It kept me kind of like guessing and stuff as to what was going to happen. And I liked the storytelling in it. It was pretty kept you on your toes. It didn't meander too much like a lot of the British novels tend to do. But at the end, how can I say it without giving it away too much? It was a little bit of a gift of the Magi ending in a bad way. So, you think that, okay, cool, everything worked out. And then boom, right at the very end, you're just like, oh crap. And I wish that there was like a better resolution to the end so that you knew really how it all worked out, but it's kind of left up to you to just be like, oh, how'd that go for her? But it was really good. I would recommend it for sure. The next one is The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. Like I said at the end of the last one, I think I'm one of the only people that has not read that book, but it was so good. It was so good. If you're not familiar with it, this guy dies, and whenever he goes to heaven, he meets 5 people that all tell him how his life affected their lives, and kind of like he figures out like why he lived, why his life went the way that it went. I'm getting kind of emotional even talking about it. It was just really, really good. And it's not a very long book. I think it was like the audiobook was maybe only 4 or 5 hours long, but I legit spent like the last 2 hours of it bawling while I'm driving. So it was probably not a good book to read if you are going to be listening to it while you're driving, or reading it while you're commuting or anything in public, because tears, just so many tears. So I was just, that was really, really good. And because I loved that book so much, I ended up checking out The Timekeeper, which is also by the same author. And by the way, I'm on the hold list for The Next Person You Meet in Heaven. So that one's going to be really good, I feel like, too. But anyway, The Timekeeper. It is about the story of Father Time and how he became Father Time. And he was, because he decided to count the minutes that were, gifted to the people, God punished him and put him in a cave and forced him to listen to all of the people that were complaining about not having enough time or wanted time to go by faster and stuff like that. So that was his punishment. And then God comes and tells him, you can finish your punishment by choosing one person who doesn't want enough time and one person who wants too much time. Oh my God, I'm getting emotional. Ooh. So anyway, he picks a girl that basically wants to end her life because she is rejected by the boy that she likes. And then he picks an old man who is rich and wants to live forever because he feels like, he should be able to buy more time. So it's kind of like he teaches both of them why their thinking is wrong and stuff. And again, it's not a really long book. You could probably devour it in a few hours. It was just so good. That was really good. I got to move on. The next two books are by the same author. I forget who the author is, but as always, the book is right here. So Final Girls is the first one, and it is about, a final girl is basically if there's a massacre, that occurs, and the one person that survives, basically. I think they described it in the book as like a horror movie term, because in horror movies, there's usually one girl that survives, the bad guy and stuff. So there are these 3 girls that all survived massacres in real life. Not real life, but in real life in the book. You know what I mean? So they are kind of a little club, and the one girl does not want to be a part of the club. She doesn't want to be defined as a final girl. And then one of them is very vocal about the struggles that she's been through, and she wrote a book and everything. And then the other one is kind of like a hermit. So it's kind of the story of these 3 girls and how their experiences affected them. And the one that is very vocal and has written a book and everything, she reaches out to the one that doesn't want anything to do with it. And she says, I really need to talk to you. Call me. And then the girl ignores the message. And the next day, that first girl ends up dead. It looks like she did it to herself at first, and then they find out that it was murder. And then they think that somebody is coming after all of the final girls to get rid of all of them. And so it's kind of like this, thriller, suspense, mystery. You got to find out who is killing all of the final girls. And it definitely kept me on my toes. It kept me kind of guessing and stuff. And the ending was very oh, wow, I did not see that coming. I did not realize that was going to be the bad guy. So it was really, really good. I loved the storytelling in it. And then the next one was The Last Time I Lied. It was about a group of girls at a summer camp. And whenever they are, 13, 14, 16, something like that, they get into a little fight, and the one girl doesn't let the other 2 back into the cabin. And then those 2 girls are missing the next day, and she feels guilt about it for, the rest of her adult life. And then the camp reopens whenever she's 28 or something like that. And they invite her back to be an art teacher at the camp. And she spends her time obsessing over how could those girls have gone missing. There's weird stuff going on at the camp. And then she gets ensnarled in this and also has threats against her and stuff. So it's her journey to figure out what happened to those 2 girls. And again, the twist is very wow, didn't see that coming. So it was really good also. This author is pretty good at the storytelling. Next one is The Marriage Pact. I really liked this one. It is a couple, husband and wife. They've just gotten married, and a kind of famous person gives them a wedding gift that is the marriage pact. And it's kind of like you have to sign all these contracts without really knowing what you're getting into. They signed it, they joined the marriage pact, which is basically all about keeping your marriage intact in a world where divorce is, taking over and stuff like that. And then there's all these rules that they didn't realize they were breaking, and there's a lot of punishments and stuff like that. And they start questioning, like, how do we get out of this? We don't want to do this. And it's kind of like, once you enter, there is no leaving. They kind of prevent you from being able to leave. And I gotta say, like, the weirdness of it, it's kind of like Scientology meets like a Illuminati kind of thing. So it was very interesting to read, and the ending is one of those that you don't really have a clear resolution. It kind of leaves it up to your interpretation, but I would like to think the best of the ending, but I would highly recommend that one. Not That I Could Tell is the next one. This is a group of like suburban moms and families, and one of them goes missing one night. It looks like her husband did it, but nobody really knows. People find out a lot of secrets that they didn't know this woman was hiding, and it kind of makes everybody question everything. There was a lot of meandering in this book, even though it was not a British novel. I feel like there was a lot of filler that just could have been left out, but overall it was pretty good, and the ending was a nice twist. So I liked that. I feel like if you don't have any other like books on your plate, if you're just looking for something just to fill some time, it's decent. It's definitely not one that I feel like affected me or anything like that, but it's all right. Next is An Unwanted Guest. This was very Agatha Christie-esque. All of these like couples and singles and, just group of people, all of them don't know each other. They're going to this like remote bed and breakfast in the winter time. I think it's in Vermont or something like that. And then people start dying. And it's kind of like an "and then there were none" type of situation. It was pretty good. It kept me guessing. There was a lot of like little, planted thingies that once you get to the end, you're like, I see where that like fit in. But at the time, you don't really realize it. It was good. It was pretty formulaic though. It pretty much followed any like run-of-the-mill crime drama kind of thing, but it was still good. I still liked it. I feel like some of the storytelling though was a little bit stunted. It was stilted or whatever, but it was still good. Next up is, two more books in the Dorothy Must Die series. I read The Wicked Will Rise, which is book number 2, and Yellow Brick War, which is book number 3. I mentioned this in the last video. I'm losing my train of thought right now. I've been talking for quite a while, but this is where a teenager from Kansas gets swept up in a tornado in modern times and ends up in Oz and has to defeat Dorothy, who has turned evil after she returned back to Oz. And this is a really good series. I'm liking it. I feel like at times I have to take a break from it because I feel like sometimes the plot doesn't move as fast as I would like it to. So I just got to like take a break and, listen to some music and then come back to it whenever I'm ready to take it on. But overall, the story is really good. I like it. These spider. Okay, I think I was talking about the Dorothy books. Anyway, These are really good. The only bad part is that there's one book left in it, number 4, and my library doesn't own it. So I recommended it. I hope that they buy it. But there's quite a few people reading these, like, on the hold list, so I should hope that they get it. But for right now, I can't finish book 4. Next up is The Good Girl. This one ticked me off because it moved so slowly. So this one is actually, I did like it because it was set in Chicago, so I do like whenever I can kind of relate to where the locations are and stuff. I'm like, oh, I know where that is. So that was nice. But this judge's daughter, who is kind of like the black sheep of the family daughter, she gets abducted and is basically like abducted by this guy, but then he double crosses the people that he was working for and then takes her off to a remote cabin in Michigan to save her from these guys. And then she ends up falling in love with him, Stockholm Syndrome, whatever. And then bad things happen. And at the very end, there's a huge plot twist. And I'm just like, whoa, that sucks. I feel like that's really all that I can say about it without giving away everything about it, but it moved so slowly. Like, the storytelling just kind of sucked. I would not recommend it just because it was really annoying to have to listen to. Like, the ending made up for it, but not that much. Next up is Monday's Lie. This is where, actually this one would make a really good Lifetime movie. It's where a woman finds out that her husband is trying to hire a hitman to kill her. And her mom was a CIA operative. And so she learned a lot about, like, defending herself and like scheming and plotting and stuff like that. So she then, after she finds this out, plots to double cross him. It was pretty good. I feel like it's a little bit forgettable though, because it is kind of like that Lifetime movie storyline. But if you just want like a nice, easy crime thriller read, that's a good option. Next up, also would make an interesting movie, There's Someone Inside Your Home. Honestly, I picked this because of the cover, because it looked interesting. But this is kind of a teen slasher book, but it would be a really good movie, actually. And it is set in, I think, Nebraska, in a small town, and there is somebody killing off classmates. And they don't know who it is for the longest time, and they're doing it in a way that's like messing with their minds before they kill them and stuff. So it was very interesting, and I did really like the book. It kept me guessing, it kept me on my toes. It made me like want to finish it and want to listen to it more. Whereas other books, I'm just like, I need a break in the middle of this. So that one was really good. I liked it, and the ending, while it wasn't a super like twisty ending, it was a good ending though, so that was good. Next up is Without Warning. This one is, again, I think a small town in like Connecticut or something, and they have a flood and they decide to unearth a time capsule that they had buried 4 years earlier to make sure that there was no damage to it. And then whenever they open up the time capsule, they find all of these predictions for things that had already happened and things that were going to happen. But at the time that they had buried the time capsule, the events had not happened. And all of them are like murder type of events or like bad things. And so they're like, whoa, who did this? How is this happening? Blah, 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 blah. It was very formulaic. It took me a while to get through it, even though it wasn't very long, just because I kind of was not interested the whole time. I don't feel like it was that great. The storytelling was not exceptional at all. It was definitely one of those, like, a paperback that you would find at Walgreens, or something. So I didn't love it. It was all right, Like once I got to the end, I was like, all right, that was okay. But I mean, I wouldn't choose to read it again. I wouldn't choose to read anything else from the author. And then the last one is Target Alex Cross. I have read all of the Alex Cross books. These are by James Patterson. I feel like he does series pretty well, but some of his series I'm just not into. Like all of those private ones, and I forget, there's another one. But honestly, the same way I felt about The Women's Murder Club, the most recent book of that, I feel about this. I feel like the series is just kind of running its course, and he's running out of ideas that are really good. And now it's just like, let's phone this in so I can cash in another million, which is fine. But I would prefer the story to be a little bit better. And this was just blah. I'm kind of over it, but it's like now I'm invested and I have to read all of them. But I feel like Alex Cross should retire. And I feel like the Women's Murder Club should retire because it's not innovative anymore and it's just no good. So, wait, oh, you know what? I thought that I was done because I wrote this list off of the screenshots that I take in my phone of the books. But now that I'm looking at this, there is a book that's not in my screenshots. And I need to make a note of it because I read it and I need to add it in here. Cabinet. So the last one is Cabin at the End of the World. I was on the hold list for this book for 8 million years. And whenever I finally got it, I was like, awesome. And it was strange. So it is all about how this gay couple, 2 guys and their adopted daughter, are vacationing in a cabin up in like the Poconos or something. And the girl is playing outside and a guy walks up to her. He's kind of creepy. He's, like talking to her and stuff. Then his friends walk up and they're carrying like weapons and stuff. And he says, your daddies won't want to let me in, but they have to. And the people then, after this long drawn out thing, they force their way into the house. They tie up the 2 dads and, they kind of leave the little girl alone for the most part. But they basically tell the dads, the world is going to end unless you make a choice. And it is you, the 3 of you, have to come to a decision on which one of you to sacrifice in order to save the whole world. You must kill one of your own. So the dads are kind of like, you guys are religious nuts and we're not going to do this. And after, they tell them these predictions, like, oh, we've all been seeing visions. We've been seeing this and that. They're like, there's going to be an earthquake, then there's going to be a tsunami. People will die. And then there will be like a planes falling from the sky, or the sky will fall, I think is what they actually say. And then there will be a plague. So after they refuse to make a decision, then the group of 4 end up killing one of them because they are forced to make a sacrifice then. And then after they refuse to make a sacrifice again, they kill off another one of them. So it's like every time the dads refuse to make a sacrifice, the group of 4 have to kill one of their own. And it's very, very gory. Like the descriptions are intense. So if you like that kind of thing, you'd probably like this. And the weird part is that the predictions do start coming true. Like they tune into the TV and they're coming true after each time that they kill one of their own. But then the dads start thinking like, well, I mean, this could just be a coincidence. But then one of them, he's a little bit religious. He grew up Catholic and stuff. And he starts thinking, what if this is real? What if we do need to sacrifice one of our own? Blah, 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 blah. Bad things happen. I don't want to give it away. But the ending is completely unresolved. Like not even a little bit, not even left up to your own interpretation, just unresolved. Like you're just listening to it or reading if you read instead of listen. And it just ends. Like, you're just listening to it and they're talking, and then it's just like, thank you for listening to the blah, blah. And I'm like, what? Where's the ending? So that ticked me the ever-loving F off. Ticked me off. I would not recommend this book strictly because the author copped out on it. Like, you painted yourself into a corner. You got to finish this. You can't just be like, the end. So in the end, I'm just going to say it because I don't feel like it's worth you reading. But in the end, there is no resolution to it. The little girl dies due to an accident. And the two fathers end up in the woods. They've escaped. And they don't know. It doesn't tell you whether it was all just, these people like are just crazy and they made everything up and everything just happened to be a coincidence, or if the world really didn't end. They don't tell you. You don't know. It just ends. Annoying. So annoying. So don't waste your time with that one, please. So that is it. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Glad we ended it on a high note there. But I will be back at the end of January to tell you what I read in that month. As always, if you have any recommendations, leave them down below. My library sometimes doesn't have the things that you guys recommend, but I always recommend it to the library to add to their collection. So if they do end up purchasing it, I automatically get on the hold list for it. So there you guys go. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will catch you guys next time. Bye.